Yeah, there's a lot more that you're gonna have to say.
So are we going to continue discussions and set an appropriate time? I don't think we need any longer than 2 weeks.
The other thing I just can see is right now on our tax bill, I think we have, line item for fire department for $100.
Yes.
I can see that going up to 200 like Norway does.
So, or you don't already have that, that would be another 267,000. You do a $50 increase to that, it'd be another 32,500. And a $25 increase is $6,700.
So basically 260.
So you can take that 200 grand out of the budget.
Right, if you give them that increase, it would. But if you can discuss all this at one time. Obviously, that's the time.
Right, because sit down, you know.
Okay, so forget to sit down and have further discussions, let's do something.
Keep in mind, only the board approves the budget.
Right.
So,
Levy set.
it's
Yeah,
gonna
levy
be,
set.
so I also want the public to understand that too. So, you
I made a motion to adjourn, give me a second.
well, we have you all here, it's so much easier for me to try to schedule
Set a
meeting when
meeting?
you guys are all here, so yes, to make the motion to adjourn. Did we have a second?
Bob, when are you leaving? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow. He's getting out of Dodge.
Pack. How long you off your sugar then?
I should do that right then.
Okay. I'm here every day, it doesn't matter.
Could we do one on December fifth?
Okay, I was gonna say 14th, 15th.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll make it work.
Which one, the 5th?
Yep.
What time?
What time?
Thursday.
Well, let's say 1 p.m.
Okay. Okay, so, yeah, Supervisor Kalinsky motion to adjourn. At 5:45, seconded by Commissioner, Schwartz. Okay, you want to call your vote?
Alright.
The only thing I do request is if anybody's got any changes, email, if the board decides it, email.
Yeah.
The whole week before we bring it up at there, otherwise I'd be a walking forum, so we bring it up after the meeting.
That's fine, bring them to the meeting.
Bring them to the meeting.
Chair, do you want to call for a vote?
Yep. So we have first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to special town board meeting to discuss policing options. This is going to be a discussion. If you wanted to make, if you had a question, or if you wanted to make, if you want to, let us know your opinion, please fill in the public comment form in the back. You will get 3 minutes. It doesn't seem like long, but it is. You'll get 3 minutes to give us your opinion or question if you're a town resident. And when you come forward, you'll please state your name and address for the record. So everyone has been given information regarding all of the options. This is discussion for tonight. Obviously, we know that we've got a lot going on at the PD, and we need to make some decisions. Start moving forward and making decisions. So I'm gonna open this up with the paper that everyone got with the numbers. We did get a proposal from the sheriff's department as well, late Friday, that everyone has. So we've got all those numbers plugged in, and does anyone want to start a discussion on that?
Madam Chair, you may have got the proposal Friday, but it wasn't submitted to any of the town board members till today.
What's that?
You got the proposal on Friday, but we didn't have no time to
Right, because the
review
office
this.
wasn't open, so you got it today. I mean,
After I requested it.
Right,
So-
so you can see the number, and you can ask any questions you wanna ask or making any decisions today. But we are gonna have a meeting to discuss. So we also did, some of the research, I know someone had a question about, the call. We were trying to get information about the call volume. The county has been extremely busy with a lot of other issues that they've been dealing with. Trying to catch up after, Belgrade's been gone, and, so we don't have a full look at that yet, but we do have that the town alone last year in 2023 had 2,656 calls. How do you break that down into, to decide, how do you take that data and decide what you need? I looked up, and the International Center for Public Safety Management, there's 5 different models. One of the models, which is the best model, is to go by the workload based, but that requires a lot of, information. It's very complex. It's something beyond the capacity of what the PD or what we'd be able to do. And it's something almost like that thing that we did with the fire department before. You have to pay for it. Most places, most municipalities go with per capita, and it looks like that's what we had done in the past. Per capita for municipalities 10,000 or under, they go from a range to 1.8 to 2.6 per thousand. So that would put us at 6,500 people, at the low range of about 11 officers and the high range of 16 officers, which just is about what we've been running on. So for that question, when they wanted to see data on how many officers, and that's kind of the basic, I think that what we've been running on, and that's the basic, I think for the under 10,000, what they would go by unless we wanted to spend money on a study. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now with that. Obviously, we've got not enough officers. We've had not enough officers for quite some time. And again, let me just be very clear, that was nothing that was instigated by the town board. There were internal complaints that needed to be investigated, so the town board did its job and we investigated them. And so this is where we're at right now. So we have officers that are working 12 hours, 16-hour days, and we need to move ahead, and we need to decide where we're going from here. So I'll open up discussion for anyone who wants to start. And any public comments, please bring us here too as well. Anyone on the board want to start a discussion?
I'll start. People I talk to in the township, they want our police department. There may be a different feeling, but I think people want our police department. If they didn't, they wouldn't have approved the extra officer a year and a half, 2 years ago, stuff like that. So yes, we are in a bit of bind right now with staffing. I'm not saying we can't rebuild or anything like that. But I think, the sheriff clearly says he's not gonna do water patrol. That's 1,131 houses on the water. People want the water patrol. So we're gonna have to have some kind of police department. We're also gonna need to, take that out of the equation. All the other things he showed us, he's gotta provide by state law if we need it. So I think we should work on rebuilding our police department. And if we have to work with the sheriff, maybe hire a deputy or two for cover a shift or two, that'd be a hybrid, because we'd save on the overtime. So I don't think, I think we can continue doing our own police department. Once you lose your own police department, you're never gonna get back. We have everything we need to run our police department. We just need qualified candidates and look for them.
So the motion, the question was put before the board back in May and in June, and I believe in September, that I was asking to get another deputy to help us with our policing, and that was always shot down, so we're in a situation that we are in now. Dale, did you have anything to say?
Well, I think we need to look at all the options we could possibly have. We've had a full-time department for a number of years with 10 full-timers, 12 part-timers, for $1,400,000. We look at the village, which contracts with us for $288,000. They contract for 2 full-time officers, one on first, one on second. And they have a partial contract for third shift with the sheriff's department for about a third of an officer. So we're spending $1,100,000 more than the village, approximately the same population, smaller area, but, you know, do we need to have full-time, 24/7, 365 coverage in the town? We still have the sheriff's department that by state statute has to cover the whole county. They could back up. The village doesn't cover all their vacant shifts, and then again, they only cover about a third of the third shift coverage. Town of Norway, which is a larger population and a larger township, includes the entire 36 sections, including Wind Lake. Their population is over 8,000. They spend about $400,000 basically for second shift coverage with part-timers and some weekend shifts. They don't cover anything at all on first shift or third shift.
Yeah, I'm talking to the mayor.
No. And the village of Rochester, another neighbor, they have a sheriff's department contract for first shift only for one officer, 1,800 hours, $119,000, no second or third shift. Town of Raymond and Dover, they have a contract. Dover covers 150 hours a year. That's less than 3 hours a week. Dover covers 113 hours with a sheriff's department contract. That's like 2 hours a week. For $11,077. So that's all they spend on policing. They just rely on the sheriff's department for like 99% of their coverage. I think we need to look at how large we want the department to be. I'm kind of in Tim's corner. I'd like to see us keep our department. I'd like to see us having a working chief, who would also patrol as well as doing office work. I don't think we need any lieutenants. I think we can get by with a chief, maybe 3 or 4 officers, to be more in line with what our neighbors are doing. But I think we've gotten too big, too expensive, and I'd like to see us, you know, reduce the size of the department, make it more affordable for the taxpayers, and still have the sheriff's department back us up when needed. So those are some of my thoughts.
In order to make a decision, it's important to have information. So since that has been shared with the public, the proposal from the sheriff's department is for one officer, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for a total of $622,000 and change for the year. Our budget is $1.4 million. That's a savings of almost $740,000. What would the townspeople like to spend $740,000 on every year?
Fire, roads.
Rather than shrinking the department or cutting back on services, we can get the same product for almost half price. Actually, less than half price. Coverage issues.
And that's one question I'd like to hear from town residents. If you'd like your police to be cut down to part-time, I know that we have some other municipalities that do that. Then again, the town of Dover has 2,200 people. I mean, they're a little bit different.
I think that's 3,900.
Okay, but by statute, they don't have to have a police department because of their size. We've talked about this before. We've got, just today too, I came in the office and found out that we have another home in the area that's been considered a drug house. I mean, we do have issues that go on here. We do have people that want policing. And I would wanna hear from the residents if they would want, you know, the policing, cut down on time, if they'd be comfortable with that. I mean, I know some other municipalities do that, but I also know some people who live in those municipalities who aren't real happy that they try to go to the police department and it's closed. I mean, so these are all things for us to look at and think about. Definitely, but, yeah. So, is this the only one we've got so far? Yep. Okay, so we have Linda Brand, who like to, and again, we have 3 minutes. Questions or comments from anyone who want to come up fill out a form, please. Is she here? Yeah, Linda.
Oh. That was fast. I wasn't expecting that.
And state your name and address for the record, please. Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me up here. So my name is Linda Brand. If you guys don't know me, I'm currently a patrol officer here in the town of Waterford. Currently. So I'd like to address the board tonight on a few different things. So my department, our department, has made excellent strides in protecting this community. I joined this force almost 5 years ago and have felt the patrol officers that I work with were more than like family. We work together alongside neighboring departments. We have a strong and educated officers working in this town of Waterford. I obtained my degree in criminal justice in 2002 after I graduated with my college education. At that time, you could also go through the academy while you were still in school. My education consisted of 400 hours plus my college degree. In the state of Wisconsin, you were required to take a test to become a certified law enforcement officer. I started my employment with the town of Burlington Police Department, where I worked on the road for 8 years as an actual patrol officer. My other duties included being a sworn officer and patrol on the road, and also in the wintertime, working as a patrol officer. In the season when it's off the time, I was also a water patrol officer. That's where I obtained my field training. In 2011, I was the only female officer working for the town of Burlington at that time. While working in the town of Burlington, I also served for another department with the town of Salem Police Department, which is all on my resume. I was told that I worked to a lot of departments. Those are the only 2 past departments that I've actually currently worked for. Currently at this time, I'm working for 3 other departments. There are only 2 other departments that I have that are former. And currently I'm also the town of Randall ordinance officer down there. I myself is a state certified sworn law enforcement instructor, which means that I can teach the academy. I also am a DNR boating safety instructor. I teach the community here boating safety classes for nothing. I do it for free because the town gets reimbursed by the DNR for 2 classes per year. This year I certified 86 students. That is more than any department in the state of Wisconsin that certifies students. And I do that as a community service here for the state. In fact, John Palmer can attest that he donated $500 this year for my classes so that way they could become free to the people and the citizens of this community. My training records have stayed with the departments that I've filed, that I've been field trained with, because that is where the documents stay. You're free to reach out and find out what education and training that I have, because those departments contain, just like any employment, have that. Why am I saying this? Because I have offered and reached out, speaking to Madam Chair personally about offering my assistance to help with the alleviation of some of these scheduling and the difficulties. Madam Chair asked what kind of qualifications and education I have. I apologize, I'm trying to go very, very fast here. When I advised what I had the same training as every other officer that we have. As you heard, even including from November 18th from the Sheriff's Departments, and they stated that we all have the same education. My fellow officers and I are trained equally based on Law Enforcement Standard Board's Department of Justice standards. While many officers may have much more education than myself, it is mandated that we continue on with our training, a minimum of 24 hours of recertification per year.
One more minute, Linda, I'm
Yep.
sorry, just saying.
Nope, that's okay. This education and training is recorded in a system that the state is mandated to record. So my training and education is on a system called ACADIS. ACADIS is a state mandated system that law enforcement officers have to put the information in the training in. So for them to say that we are not trained and for that the trainings are not recorded, I'm proving to you right now that these are standards that are recorded in the system.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanna make one, when I did talk to you and I did ask you your qualifications, I went through your file and I made some phone calls from previous employers, and that's not the same information I received, so maybe we need to talk later, okay?
So I was never employed at those employments?
I'm sorry?
I was never employed at those employments?
I did not receive the same information that you just told us, so we'll have to talk later, okay? Thank
Sure.
you. And I just wanna make one remark about the training. When we're talking about training, we're not talking about training to be an officer, we're talking about the field training specific to Waterford Police Department, which is a policy of the Waterford Police Department, which we have been in breach of, which is absolutely different from any other trainings that anybody may have, which puts us and you guys at a liability. Okay, are there any other public comments? Mister, did you fill out a form?
Yeah, it's 5:30, want it?
Yeah. Come forward, state your name and address, please, for the record.
Ed Olander, Waterford Woods. Now, you know, I've been up here a lot of times, and I think the last several years, 5 years probably, every time I came up, my concerns were always safety. Safety and safety, okay? I've heard this board talk about safety. I've heard about saving some bucks, whatever. I think what I'm hearing lately is you guys are talking out of both sides of your mouth. Because if you go back 5 years and you look at everything that this board, the majority of the board, has done, safety was sacrificed. And you know, I could start, I'm not gonna go through the details, but I think you all know it, when we severed our relationship with the village for fire and EMS, that didn't improve safety. As a matter of fact, times for on-time responses doubled, tripled, quadrupled after we were getting 3-4 minute
The
response
village
times
is servicing that
on
area.
the south side of the
But
township.
the village is servicing that area.
They are now.
servicing that area.
Yeah, but we severed that
Just wanna
time
be
back
clear.
in 2020, don't you remember?
I wanna be clear.
You all guys voted unanimously. Don't do that, Terry, because you voted unanimously, and then you thought about it. And what happened? Ask your partner right there.
We went
It
through
was
this
shut
before, we
down.
received more information and voted against, but to be clear, we do have a contract with the village now for that side of the area. Let's move on, we've got 2 minutes.
Okay, do you have a contract, a formal contract with the Michigan Volunteer Fire Department?
Why are we talking about?
So what's all of this liability stuff? What's gonna cause more liability? Something that happens within their
That's what
contract?
we're working on,
Yeah, for 5 years.
that's what we're working on.
So this is that double speak that, oh, we're so, safety, blah, blah, blah. And relative to cost of that, I don't care how much it costs. One thing I don't do is skimp on safety. I'm a family man. When I grew up, my kids, we all drove on Michelin tires. Why? They're rated #1, safety. I'm not gonna squabble if you guys wanna add another officer, et cetera. That's money well spent. And speaking of money well spent, the last 5 years, you guys flushed probably close to $500,000 down the toilet on all of these, I don't know what you wanna call them. Don't give me that look, Terry.
Okay.
Okay, how much did you spend for town and corporation? Over $100,000, right?
It was $100,000.
Tell me what this is, starting May 6th, how much over and beyond our budget did we spend, just for what we're discussing right now? I'm gonna say
Are you
$200,000.
speaking investigations?
After May 6th, how much more did we spend for all of
Let
the
me just ask you a question, would
investigations,
you rather
lawyers,
us
et cetera, et cetera?
not do an investigation when investigations were called for? And how much would that cost?
You
So I'm
keep
gonna
bringing
say
that liability
The
up,
town board did what it
but
needed to do.
that's an unknown. That's what I'm hearing
It's your
is,
opinion.
you're talking on both sides of your mouth. It's as simple as
So if
that.
allegations come forward from within the PD and they want them investigated, we're supposed to turn our back and not investigate them? We're done. We did what we needed to do. We're done talking about that.
You
We
brought
have
up,
one more
you brought
minute.
up the open records with Jusky. I did read that, because you had some issues with that. I read that several times. For an issue that happened in 2019. You guys called him out on it. He resigned, he's done with the BS. 2019 was that issue.
That wasn't the only thing.
And oh, by the way, the one that I thought was the most serious, that was it to me, okay? That's my opinion, that's all I'm gonna say. This person that resigned because he's tired of this BS. You know where he works right now? State Capitol. You know, where Governor Evers checks in every day. Department of Justice, yeah. Meanwhile, you cut the poor kid off, David Ferger at the knees. 4 kids, he's got no job. You guys had it in your power not to dismiss him, not to force him to resign. You did have that in your power, even though he was on a Brady list. So you guys gotta sit back and think about this. Don't get any double speak. I don't care if you spend a little bit more. Get another officer, get 2 of them, get somebody in that department that can take care of all of this stuff
and then you guys can get to work,
Okay.
fixing potholes and everything
Okay,
else.
thank you.
Quick question. How many red flags are acceptable for you?
Pardon me?
How many red flags are acceptable for you for us to hire a new officer in there? Because the applicants that we've gotten, some of them have 2 red flags at the DOJ, some have 1. So how many red flags? How many is
First of
acceptable?
all, there's a
When
shortage, you know there's a
misconduct,
shortage.
when
I
there's
know you're
misconduct,
trying.
how much misconduct is acceptable?
Okay, I'm gonna answer your question. I know there's a shortage of police officers. Just on the news today, Milwaukee, they're offering $10,000 sign-up bonus. And the people that sign up, questionable.
Do you know what else
We knew
Milwaukee did?
that, we knew that a long time
Milwaukee
ago.
also
But-
fired a guy for being on the Brady list.
Huh?
Milwaukee also fired a guy simply for being on the Brady list.
I'm sure there's a lot of them on there.
If Milwaukee can't handle an individual on the Brady list, how does a small town department like this deal with an officer on the Brady
You
list?
had it in
When-
your
when-
power
Sure,
to keep him.
sure, we can do a lot of
It
things.
started with Scott Waukesha. The guy had a perfect record. The day that he got called in by his sergeant, his chief called him up and congratulated him for all the great work. He had no black mark on his record.
We can do a lot.
You guys have the opportunity. You should have looked into that more seriously.
Ed, it doesn't matter. He's on the Brady list. The Brady list says that our DA most likely will not call him to testify. So you have some criminal activity happen to you, and it's not prosecuted, or your family, and it's not prosecuted because we have an officer.
Tell us
who's on
what
the
he
Brady
did.
list.
Tell us what he did to get on the Brady list.
Ed, that happened in a different county. I didn't do it, they didn't do it.
Okay, are you telling me you didn't discuss what happened in the other county when you had your meetings?
It's not
Tell me
relevant.
what he did.
He's on the list or he's not on the list is the only question that matters, Ed.
You know, I think about government lists.
Ed, if you had some sort of criminal activity happen to you or your family and it wasn't prosecuted, how would you feel? You probably wouldn't like that, would you? I
You're
wouldn't.
saying criminal,
Yes.
okay? I don't know what he did.
I'm not talking about him.
Anybody,
I'm
I don't
talking
know,
about
I don't know
something
what,
happening against you or your
everything
family.
I've investigated.
If he was a responding officer, if you had something happen to you or your family, and he was a responding
if-
officer, so that got thrown out, how would you like that?
Look,
I don't think anyone here would.
everything I've seen with all the people that you let go was trivial.
Well, you
There
haven't
was
seen it, Ed,
nothing
because
there.
it hasn't been released because there are lawsuits to stop it from being released.
Why
So,
would that
so
be?
you're
There's
entitled
some
to your,
information going
you are
out.
entitled to your opinion, you're not entitled to your facts. And you don't have the facts because they haven't been
Jesse's
released.
report
That
was public.
that report is only,
Ms. Littman's report, whatever news, that's open.
the Jesse report from years ago is not the current complaint, Ed. So you have your facts, they're just not all of them. So please, wait to pass judgment until you have all of those facts. And then
Okay.
I will be more than happy to take
What
whatever
was
speech
the
you
issue?
have to
Tell us tell the public what the issue is.
The issue has been told, Ed. There was,
Tell the public, the media, why Janine was let go.
because she failed to follow simple instructions.
Willfully.
Simple.
And intentionally.
So what happened in our employment areas where you get a little slap on the wrist, you get called in, you go get
There are things that can
rehabilitated?
get a slap
You
on the
guys
wrist
just
for, and there
you're-
are things more egregious,
No,
that's
Ed,
more than a
no,
slap
Ed.
on the wrist.
She was placed on suspension and she stopped coming. She stopped, she didn't answer any phone calls, she didn't
And
answer
why?
mail. Ask her, she wouldn't come up
I
and
know
talk to
why,
us.
they're trying to,
She wouldn't
yes.
come talk to us.
Why are you getting trashed for candidates for police? They know what's going on in this area.
They know
Would
what's
you-
going
would
on
they
in the
wanna work
department,
here?
Ed.
Would they wanna work here? Would you wanna work here?
Okay, are we finished?
I'm finished.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can I make one more comment real quick?
We need to make sure that everyone has all the facts before they think they know what they're talking about, what's going on. There's a lot of things that we were able to tell because of rules and because of laws, and we're following what we're supposed to follow to protect our residents. Linda, you had your turn, I'm sorry.
So the state of
Okay.
Wisconsin has a website called CCAP.
We're not gonna turn this into an argument. We
No,
had
it's
issues and
It's a
problems
state of fact.
that people complained, the
CCAP
town did what they needed to do.
Can I ask
Brianna, would you
Sean
like to come
Parker?
forward?
Can I
just ask a question? I mean, I don't know too much about, oh, sorry.
He's still currently employed with the.
I just have a question,
suspension.
because I haven't really been following this at all, but I mean, I hear a lot of asking about what these officers have done. Can't these officers come forward and say what they've done? Have
They probably don't
offered-
want to, but
Have they offered to do that?
one of them didn't
Uh,
wanna go to questioning.
They both, the two lieutenants, retired instead of giving their side of the story. So, I mean,
And those officers still
they,
could come
oh,
forward
absolutely, absolutely.
and say, because with all the, outside community bringing it up and such, if they wanted to clear their name, wouldn't they come forward and?
They
Am I
probably
wrong in
wouldn't
asking
file an
that?
injunction for the open records, yeah.
I mean, I apologize, I hear like, asking questions about it, but it's like, well, wouldn't they just wanna come forward? And I don't know who these officers are, but I would think that they would just step forward and say, this is what I did, this is what the story is. I mean, there's nothing that putting tape over their mouth, correct?
Nope.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion from the board? I think we still on for this?
Yeah, he had school board meetings, so.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to say a couple more things. This is just a beginning discussion. I think we need to look at all the options and cost estimates. I think we need to meet with our police officers and get some input and ideas from them. I think we need to meet with village officials. They've been openly saying they wanna have local police. Maybe if we meet with the village, we can figure out a way to, to work more together, to share officers on different shifts, maybe share some more administrative payroll duties, take some of the work off Heather and Tina. But I think we need more input from more people before we even think about making a final decision on this.
I'm gonna chirp in, I agree with Dale, but I think we should meet with our officers, and maybe we make an officer in charge, and that would stabilize our department a little bit. Well, we've all liked Sarah before. I heard Sarah applied for the chief position, but she was sort of discouraged a little bit. But
Well, I would agree. I think Sarah would be a good person. Sarah Polka, on her own initiative, came up with a field training manual that's very detailed. I showed it to Lieutenant a week or so ago. He thought it had all the components. So I think she would be an excellent candidate. And she's already shown initiative to do that on her own time.
yeah, I think that'd be a good starting point. Yep, can I get a copy of that training manual?
There's only existing copies in.
Oh, it's not in email form or anything?
I've got a PDF file, but you could borrow it mine if you want. It's in the supervisor's
Oh,
office.
okay.
We have much of it on PDF also. I assisted with that FTO manual, so we have it on PDF also.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
So we are saying that we have an FTO manual that Sarah has worked on, because we did not have one. And we did not have FTO training, I just wanna make that clear. And to this point today, there's been no FTO training. So let's make that clear to everyone, regardless of anything else that's been out there on Facebook or anywhere else, okay? So we will further discussions.
Can you clarify? He's got a
Okay,
question.
nobody talks from their seats, please. You can come up and state your name and address if you haven't spoken already. Okay, we're gonna have order.
The question is, Grant Warren, 5826 North Riverview Road. The difference between an FGO training, whether it's City of Milwaukee, whether it's Burlington, or whatever it might be, our officers are trained in FGO training, not within Waterford-specific FGO training manual, because we didn't have one. Whose fault is that, and at what point did we discover that? I guess it must have been in the last 6 months, presumably, right, or 9 months? But our officers are all FTO training. Most of our officers work in multiple police departments. In order to make a living on their wages, they have to work multiple jobs.
I understand that, but per policy, they need to be FTO trained for Waterford,
Correct.
or that's a great liability for us. That's our
I
issue.
understand.
What people out there don't understand is our issue, right?
And
Is
that's
to
why
deal with that, all those liability issues.
I'm glad that Sarah has brought that up and suggested I would advocate for her as a candidate. I don't know what Jim was referring to when he said that she was poo-pooed or.
She's never applied. He said she applied for chief, but she didn't.
Okay.
So he didn't, she wasn't.
But I know that back in September, we suggested the same thing. We were at this, not the same meeting, but the town meeting, and we suggested, Officer Schweitzer suggested an FTO manual, and I don't know what happened with that. I think there were other things at play there, but that was 3 months ago, and we're still in the same position.
There was a supposed field training manual, which was something dusted off from Mount Pleasant, and it didn't really apply to the town of Waterford at all. It was just kind of a pretend thing. Sarah Polka did create a genuine field training manual for the town of Waterford that has all the necessary components according to Lieutenant Gessler, so.
Well, it was Lieutenant Spiegel, and
Sir
he
Spiegel,
said
yeah.
someone would have to, because the binder's like that, he said someone would have to make sure that it's in line with the policies that were adopted by the previous administration over there. So a binder that they need to go, and someone needs to go and check everything back and forth. And I don't know if you wanna reference, about liability, what was said right in front of us by an officer.
Oh, about the FTO training?
Yes.
Yes,
Why we.
right in the office, someone was intelligent enough to say, if anything ever happened, you ever got in trouble, he would just say, hey, I'm not FTO trained, and blame the town.
Yeah.
So, ding ding, town liability. We are here to protect your interests, like it or not.
And I thank you for that, and I hope that we were the safest town in the state of Wisconsin, 2 years ago. And I hope with local police, and I hope that we can continue that, and I hope that we can find the officers and find the qualified people. Certainly, I think that we're gonna be more desirable place for officers to work than in the city of Milwaukee, or somewhere where their life is at risk on a regular basis. That doesn't happen here. So, I understand the challenge that you
Yeah,
got.
thank you. And thank you for bringing that up. Actually, a couple years ago, too, I was very excited to hear when they said we were the safest city in Wisconsin, but we found out that, the mechanism they use to decide that had a lot to do with the amount of arrests. And what we have come to find is that we're not always arresting when we weren't, maybe now, always arresting when we were supposed to be arresting. There were a lot of criminal summons instead, because people didn't wanna drive downtown. There's a lot of things that we've been finding out that you guys don't know yet, so it's been very disappointing. We've been doing a lot of hard work. We wanna make sure that everyone in the town has quality law enforcement at a good price, and that's the only reason we're here, so thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We adjourn at 6:22.
Thank you, gentlemen, for hanging out. Bill, have to leave?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys, all right? Mark.
Mark, send me a phone number.